What's up guys, welcome back to this week's episode of Pilgrim Outdoors. I'm in a bit of a conundrum. It's that time of year where things get very difficult, where fishing starts to slow down because of the cooler temperatures and the bite's not top notch. At the same time, there's no ice being made yet either. It's at that point where the weather is just not quite clicking to create solid ice. Hopefully in the next couple weeks we have some solid ice and we can start getting our augers ready and we can start drilling holes and popping big fish. So this week's episode, I am going to help you guys be more successful out on the water this year for the hard water season. Topic for today is going to be big walleye. That is all we want to do all year long, is catch big honking greenback walleye or even gold. We're going to get into detail on aspects of being able to catch more and bigger fish. I'm going to give you all the tips and tricks that I know, that I've gathered over the years to better help you guys help locate bigger fish. We're going to go over baits, we're going to go over tackle, and we are going to go on the big screen and show you guys what to look for on Navionics or whatever mapping system. We are going to look over the Red River and South Basin of Lake Winnipeg. Let's get started. It's probably gonna be a longer episode, so stick with it, but it's gonna be super helpful. It's gonna be full of information, and you never know, I might hook you guys up with a secret spot or two. But let's get it. Okay, first things first, we are going to go over the appropriate tackle and rods and accessories to be able to handle big mama walleye. We're talking anywhere from 26 to 32 inches if you can manage that. But this is what I use on a yearly basis. This is a Frostbite Black Series digger rod. This rod is the bread and butter to my arsenal right now because this one has caught the most big walleye for me, and I like the way the performance is on it. I'm a guy that kind of likes that heavy backbone but a very soft, fast tip. I find with walleye fishing, you really want to succumb to those hard head shakes. So you want a rod that can really absorb that, but at the same time still really drive that hook into their mouth and be able to like handle the fight. This is the 39 medium fiberglass. Great rod if you haven't already used one or owned one. Got that paired up with Power Pro yellow. It doesn't really matter on the color, but this is the 10-pound test. I have a 10-pound leader of trilene fluorocarbon, and then this is something new that I'll be trying this year. But this is the Big Skies. I can't remember what jig this is. I don't know. I'm gonna call it a predator jig because, you know, only things with cat eyes is really a predator. This is going to be pretty lit. It's in a color combination that I find also very successful on Lake Winnipeg and the Red River, which is that orange yellow, or as I call Fire Tiger. Paired up with a Stratic 2500 series, and yeah, that's rod number one. Next on the list is my, call it the show off. This is the IMX Pro G Loomis ice fishing rod. If you haven't already seen my video from last year, I talk about this rod a little bit more. It is on the very high end of ice fishing rods. If I'm not mistaken, last I checked, I think it's $300, which is absolutely insane. I don't know why you would ever want to purchase it for that price. I personally did not purchase it for that price. I got a pretty sweet deal on this, so that's why I am a proud owner of one. It is a medium fast ice fishing rod. I think this is the 34 inch if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. Paired up again, Power Pro to trilene fluorocarbon, and then a Rattlebait. I like this rod too because it's not as soft as the others. It's definitely not as fast, but it is stiff. It is super stiff, but you can feel every single bite with this rod. So this is my good ripping rod. This is where I really just haul on it and just get those rattles rattling. Paired up with a 1000 series Sienna from Shimano. This rod is a lot of the times used for, like I said, ripping, or if I use it as a dead stick, I'll usually put a jigging spoon on this one with a live minnow. Since Manitoba rules with live bait are about to change, if not already changed, live bait is not going to be accessible this year, so might have to alter what I do with that, but frozen minnows, frozen salted minnows work just as good. That is rod number two. Rod number 3. This is the 39-inch medium light fiberglass drench from Frostbite as well. This rod in particular, you'll see me use this rod for a lot of different applications. You'll see me use this for crappie fishing, pretty much any of my light fishing really, so like perch, crappie, bass. This is, and trout. This rod's really good for those kind of things too. I call this the multi-purpose rod because I know it's strong enough to handle a big greenback and at the same time light enough that it can handle crappie tackle, so tungsten jigs and all that. But it's so soft. It like absorbs head shakes like crazy. So it's the great multi-purpose rod. This rod 95% of the time is used as my dead stick. The reason for that is I have one of those balance holders and it's great. So when you put in one of the balance holders, it teeter-totters. There's like zero resistance when a fish picks up. Not only that, it's so soft, so when a fish does pick it up aggressively and does pull the rod down, they still really don't feel that resistance. At the same time, to them it might only feel like a bait fish just trying to struggle and get away, right? So like I said, I usually have this one paired up with a jig or a dinner bell. This dinner bell, well, this is the medium-sized dinner bell. Two favorite colors are definitely the yellow and orange. Usually pair this up with a salted minnow or a live minnow. Once again, also paired up with 10-pound test Power Pro and 10-pound test fluorocarbons from Trilene. This is a newer reel that came out, I believe, last season. This is the Shimano Nex Av. This is a 1000 series, very reasonably priced, and it is a perfect setup for ice fishing. It's got a really smooth drag system in it for the price range. When it comes to dealing with big walleye, it has the capabilities of landing big fish. You definitely have to wrestle them a little bit more with this rod because it is a little softer in the backbone, but the fight is a ton of fun and still get the fish in at a relatively good pace so you don't tire them out and kill them. So you can pretty much call this one the Frostbite Special, but this is my lazy fishing rod. This is the dead stick that gets me absolutely everything. Like I was saying earlier, Power Pro 10-pound test. This is the red. I don't usually rock the red too often. I really like the yellow, but you know, grab the wrong pack one time and you know, you're not going to return it because getting to the tackle store is like the other side of the world, so too difficult to get back. And then Berkeley Trilene 10-pound fluorocarbon. That's my go-to. 8, 10, 12, those are okay ranges. Okay, let's just get right back into those jigs. So a big thing for me when fishing the Red River or Lake Winnipeg is jig size. So I know there's a lot of you out there that are like very particular to upping or downing your size depending on the situation, and I do stand behind that and I agree with it. 98% of the times I am using a 3/8 ounce jig of whatever type or color. I definitely like my VMCs, the Northland, I believe they're called Easy Jigs. Those are also really good, but yeah, 3/8 ounce, and I don't know, it's a me thing, but a very prominent thing for me is a very realistic jig head. So a lot of the times I like the ones that have a elongated face or a tapering that makes them look more like a bait fish. For example, this Big Sky jig has just that. You can see it kind of has that taper and kind of like gills and all that. To me, it just adds to the presentation, makes it that much more believable. Preference is always huge. Like some people say, oh, the fish don't care what they eat, but you know, sometimes you have a confidence strategy that you go with, and that's just what obviously puts you ahead, makes you more confident. So follow your gut. If there's particular things that you like, stick with them, because you never know, they may pay off, or they are just that prominent and they do constantly pay off. So that is something I like, is always a tapered jig, something that looks very realistic. Another thing is jigs with big eyes. I believe those fish love seeing that. Believe it or not, I feel like they make eye contact, and like, I don't know, if fish could talk, it's like fish saying like, what's up dude, and then no response, they get pissed off, bang, smack, dead in your mouth, hook into a big fish. Jigs are definitely number one for me. You can never go wrong with using a jig in plastic or a jig in minnow. When fishing a jig for me, there is a handful of things I do. Depending on pressures and weather and whatever variables, you'll be able to sense what the fish are kind of doing. If you're not seeing the results that you're looking for, it means you got to try different things. So it's either an aggressive cadence when jigging or super still. So when it comes to super still, 3 inches. I keep my jig 3 inches from bottom and I leave it. And if I lift it just enough to draw attention, and I put it back and I hold. That's what I do for a calmer day. When it is an aggressive bite and you can tell that the fish are far more active, pound that thing in the dirt, just bounce it off the bottom, rip it up back to 2 feet, hold. Back into the dirt, 2 feet, hold. If the fish are responding to that and you can tell that there's an aggression towards it, drop it back down, but don't hit bottom. Stay stationary at about a foot and hold it. Watch that fish come in and just clobber it. So that's what I do when it comes to using jigs. Next on the list is Rattlebaits. You've definitely seen me in past episodes use lots of these. This is the Sexy Shad from Jackal. This is the TN60. This is my absolute go-to rattlebait. That is number 1 on my list any day of the week. I've caught more big fish on this particular rattlebait in comparison to any other. I do also use though the rip and wrap, the rip and slabs, and pretty much any kind of lipless rattlebait, but this is definitely my go-to. Definitely more on the pricier side. Last I heard they're almost $30 a pop, which I don't know if I want to be buying that anymore, so I'll probably be switching back to the rip and wraps and rip and slabs. Hopefully I don't lose this because this is truly my favorite. Same thing goes for lipless crankbaits. Check what the fish are doing. If they want it aggressive, rip, 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 and then stay stationary. If they don't, little hops at the bottom, just little hops. Just get that tail kicking, just pop it in their face, just little taps, and then stay stationary. They'll hit it, set the hook. That's the name of the game. Don't forget though, this is your bread and butter. Our water here in Manitoba on the Red River and Lake Winnipeg is quite dirty. So that rattle is what calls the fish in. You have to call fish in. So at any given time, you'll see me working 2 rods. Usually a dead stick with a jig and then a rattlebait. This calls the fish in. If the fish doesn't come and find this first, it might find your jig first. So make sure you work 2 baits. Make sure you work that rattlebait and have your dead stick down at the same time. Deadly combination. The fish has 2 options when they finally arrive and find out what's going on. Highly consider at any given point always keeping one of these on at any time of the year. Is that if that's early ice, right to last ice. Money lure. Keep it in the arsenal. Next on the list are jigging spoons. Jigging spoons and I do not get along. That's why a lot of the times I use them for dead stick baits. The reason for that is I'm a person, when it comes to jigging, I like making steady contact. I want to feel that lure hit, ouch, ouch, ouch. I want to feel that lure hit the bottom every time. I don't want to feel blah, 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 blah. Hate that. Especially since I'm not a person that fishes with live scope very often. And you know, if you're fishing with a traditional fish finder, they go out of your cone angles and you can't see them. I like being able to see my lure at all given times. Yes, you can still work this thing slow enough that it'll stay in your cone, but at the same time it drives me crazy. Can't completely crap on it though. They are great lures. They do attract fish in some fashion. This is my dead stick one. So when I'm fishing dead sticks, I always fish with my lure quite suspended actually. Probably anywhere from a foot to a foot and a half. But obviously there's lots of variables. It can be up, it can be down, due to barometric pressures or fish migration or whatever. If you have to keep it a little bit lower, keep it a little bit lower. Rule of thumb for me is anywhere from 3 inches to a foot and a half. That's where you keep your dead stick. And you keep it either still with a frozen salted minnow, or you keep it very lively with a live minnow, and that'll get everything kind of moving, and then it'll draw fish in as well. Keep that in mind when fishing a dead stick, to put a jigging spoon on. You'll get a little more flash, a little more pizzazz out of it, and it'll call in more fish. So that is my third go-to option. Next, we are going to talk about locations. Location, and how to locate and find feeding walleye. No matter the time of day, no matter the location. There's a lot of things to consider, but at the same time, it is science. Fish follow certain patterns no matter what. So we're gonna go over that. I'm gonna pull up the maps and we're gonna go over some stuff. Okay, so right now we're gonna go over some locations and what to look for. Selkirk, Manitoba, north of Winnipeg, about 15-20 minutes. We're gonna go to a very common location to start. A lot of people fish this. If you can't tell by this right here, that's the chimney, that's a smokestack, that's the water plant, and this is where CIL is. So for example, caught many nice fish at CIL, especially in the fall, if you've been paying attention and watching my videos. But this is something I look for right here. This is a prime example. So this is the location, this is the power lines. For example, something like this. This right here is gorgeous. Okay, so as you can see, we have a very shallow shoreline on both sides, and then we have a neck down for a channel. So when I look at an area for fishing greenbacks, I always consider the center of the river. Center of the river is always going to hold fish in the wintertime. It is the thoroughfare where all the fish are going to constantly go. It is the fish highway. You will find fish traveling shallow as well, but in the Red River, for example, they are always zipping through there. That's why if you're able to see, you'll have lots of suspended marks on your fish finders throughout the winter. So when I look at this, an area I would definitely consider are this kind of outcrop right here, right in this location or right here. I am all about fishing contours or depth change, drastic depth changes on the Red River. If you can find that, where you can find edges, I'm not saying like plummets, because you won't necessarily find spots that just plummet on the Red River. You look for gradual, quick changes. For example, we got a big flat right here back into the deep channel where the deep holes are. This section of the river though is not very deep, but right here I'd set up right along these edges, right where you're going to start getting that break in the mud into the deepest flat. You want to fish those edges. So stick on those edges. Those are always key, and those fish will always be hovering there. And even some days too, depending if you notice you're not catching on the edges well, try a little shallower, try on the flat. Still the deeper water, anywhere from 10 to 15-ish feet. Sit on those flats, and there's usually walleye moving through there or feeding. That's why they call them feeding flats. If that doesn't work, move off to the deep holes. Fish the deeper holes. Don't fish crazy deep. If you're gonna fish deep, try to keep it within 20, let's say 25 feet. 30 feet's pushing it, but 25 feet. You find that 25-foot range, that's also a very good spot to be. So yeah, that's where I would fish. I would fish something like this and something like that. And then, yeah, if you really want to dabble, you can fish in the middle. Here's a very common spot too, right here. Huge walleye. You know why? Because I caught a 29-inch walleye right there. Right there. Following exactly what I was telling you guys. Right there, so that's Nile Creek, that's the slip. And this is a very deep part of the river. As you head further north, the deeper the river gets. So deepest spot in here, I believe, is like 26 feet, if I'm not mistaken. And that's kind of right over here. But this transition right here off of Netley, you fish this vicinity, same thing, especially early in Netley, around that area. I always fish this contour, right on the edges, right where the color tones change on your mapping. Fish those edges. Successful number for this area for me is usually anywhere from 14 feet to 19 feet. When I caught this fish back in the day, it was about 19 feet of water, caught on a dead stick and a jig. That was right there. That is a Pilgrim Outdoors hotspot. Here we got Lake Winnipeg. Lake Winnipeg is a vast body of water, the 10th largest freshwater lake in the world, and the only place in the world that holds monster greenback walleyes. As you can see, I've caught plenty of fish all over the place. That's due to the fact that Lake Winnipeg is a giant fish bowl. So when it comes to fishing Lake Winnipeg, there's a handful of things to keep in mind. Pressured areas and fish migration. So first ice, the fish are going to be absolutely everywhere. And over the years, I've noticed a certain pattern takes place. And you have to be willing to follow that pattern. So if you have the means to get around on Lake Winnipeg, it makes it easier. But for those that are a little more weary of traveling on Lake Winnipeg, I understand. A pattern that I notice that happens every year is anywhere, so right here is the main channel of the Red River. Anywhere west of there, so we got the main Salmo channel, the second channel, and then we have Eagle's Nest and all this area. The fish are everywhere, and what will happen is more and more people, as the season comes on, will start fishing and crowding this area, and the fish will push off, and they will push to the opposite side of the river, of the lake. And yes, you can still catch plenty of fish in this particular area, but you're definitely going to be fighting for those fish. Those fish are going to be highly pressured, and they will know what a rattlebait is and a jig in a minnow. Are they still stubborn enough to bite it? Absolutely, but you'll notice that the pressure is there and it becomes trickier to catch fish. Not saying you won't catch fish. I know there's people that are going to hate me in the comments and say, oh, I catch hundreds of fish a trip. I get it. You're a pro. But it's just something that I noticed. The fish will work east into the other areas. So you got Stony Point, Prudence Creek. Those areas are always bountiful. When it comes to March fishing, we already know how that goes. We call it March Madness for a reason, because there's 1,000,001 big fish caught. There's tons of fish. The fish are all pregnant, hungry, and you catch tons of tanks. When it comes to that season, run and gun. Run and gun, keep moving. Don't hunker down in one spot. Be willing to move, even if the conditions are awful, and fish 3 spots. If you can do 3 different spots a day, your odds will go up. That's the biggest thing I can say is keep moving. Keep moving on Lake Winnipeg. You can make a 100-yard run, and it will make the world of difference. You just never know sometimes out there. You can just fall on a pot of fish. But just keep moving. And when it comes to fishing closer to shore along this region, 5 feet. You can find fish in 5 feet of water. It's absolutely bonkers. There's also a crazy bite that happens too, that where you can fish up super shallow early in the morning, like first light, and you'll be in like 3 to 7 feet of water, and it just lights out for the first hour and a half, and then you'll notice it'll die off. But you move with that die off period into deeper water, 10 to say 14 feet of water, bang, you'll find some more fish, and the bite will be better, and there will probably be bigger fish out there too. But then it happens again. You can move back closer to dusk, and those fish will be back in that shallow water, and you'll be pounding tons of eaters again. So keep that in mind too. That is also a very fun option if you get the opportunity to do that. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Pilgrim Outdoors. I hope this video is beneficial. I hope the information that I give to you guys helps you catch your 30. So yeah, thank you guys for tuning into this week's episode. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. I hope this video brings you guys lots of success in the near future, since the ice fishing season is just around the corner. Just remember, play it safe. The ice will be very new, very fresh. Make sure that you have a safe minimum, please promise me, minimum 4 inches. 4 inches is critical. Don't do anything crazy. Play it super safe. Make smart, educated risks. Go with a buddy. Make sure you have your float suits, ice picks, your spud bars. Check the ice. Play it safe. If you guys really do enjoy this content, please be sure to subscribe. I really appreciate it. And I will catch you guys on the next one. Tight lines. Keep it safe. Let's have fun. All the best successes to you guys this season. Catch you later.